Okay, welcome back. I'm pretty sure that I have the screen share issues worked out from last time where I was talking about things that were happening on the screen and you were not seeing them because you were seeing a changing background. That's very frustrating for me as a professor, and I'm sorry for the quality. If you have any questions about the student paper, the student or presentation, let me know. We're going to talk a little bit about not a little bit, we're going to talk wholly exclusively about our interaction plan in our syllabus. And you're going to love me and you're going to hate me because you're going to love me because this week is fall break and you don't have any discussion boards. You don't have any like real tangible work. You're going to hate me because you still don't get the week off because you're thinking about these things. And so I'm sharing these two things from the syllabus that are necessary. They're going to be due in November. We'll talk about those due dates in just a moment, but conceptualizing how to get these things done. So I'm going to share my screen, hopefully the correct screen, because I'm going to reference it quite a bit. And I will check before I go through the whole process of uploading to Blackboard and uploading to YouTube and the multi-step process that is producing a video. So we are in module 9 and I want to minimize, I don't want to minimize that just yet. You can see that this is our week built out. Let me go ahead and turn the edit off so I see what you see. So there's the student research project. I provide a couple of research examples, like where to find, like what to look at. That's what I talked about last time in the video that got cut off. Here's instructions. So you'll see the other video. That's the crummy one. And there's also a link here to submit that assignment. You can see that the research project, either the paper or the presentation, is due November 17th. So you have some time. You have a month to get that done, but be conceptualizing it this week. Think about what it's going to take. You can also use the time that you normally would be doing discussion boards if you'd like. Let's talk a lot about, yeah, that's fine. Let's talk a lot about this. So this is our interaction plan, and I'm also renaming it the intercultural conversation. This is something that comes from my own experience in research coming together. So I have a lot of passion for this assignment. The reason being is that it forced me to step out of my comfort zone as a learner. Personally, when growing up, I absolutely loved sitting in class. Uh, you know, not maybe not front and center, but I definitely was like a sponge, like lecture chalk, on the chalkboard. Yeah, I went back in the day, whiteboard, whatever I could like feed me Seymour. I was just like I read the text, I took notes. Not always, if I wasn't, but if I liked the class, I mean, I was engaged in it. I was like soaking it up. So this forced me this assignment because I've done this type of assignment 2 or 3 times in my academic career, and if you haven't, it's going to be uncomfortable, and that's okay. Um, and I want to talk about that uncomfort and how and what to do with that. So they made me lean into new experience and have conversations outside of the class, but they also did a lot to help me feel more comfortable talking to other people. Also did a lot to assuage my own prejudices. So I've rethought the assignment, and I don't want us to go after somebody who we have a strong prejudice against. I think that's asking a lot of you. We just in the past couple of weeks talked about bracketing, what to do with our own deeply held beliefs. And so I don't want us in rethinking this here halfway through the semester. I'm going to modify this assignment, and I'm also for future classes as well going to modify this assignment. And so the spirit of the assignment is to find somebody from a culture that is different than you, different than yours, and I would say significantly different than yours, based on religion, race, gender identity, sexual orientation. You could make an argument for other factors as well, but something that where a person is a part of a different culture. I would also ask that you consider a culture that would be defined as marginalized or oppressed in some way with regard to our larger white Anglo-Saxon populace here in the United States. So I think that it's important that we try to really and I will say this. Let me kind of rephrase that a bit. Um, if you're from a marginalized culture yourself, if you feel like you're from a marginalized or oppressed culture, and you want to have that conversation with somebody who is a member of a of a dominant culture, in white Anglo-Saxon Protestant, um, you're welcome to do that as well. So again, sometimes my own lens is hampered by my own perspective, and so, but I would ask that you kind of take and consider that framework that we've talked about for the past few weeks when you go into this. However, there's a big like caveat to this. It's right here. Take off your counseling hat. I will intentionally want you to take off your, and we'll cover that more. So you're not actually going to counsel the person. It's not strategies. It's not supervised. It's not practicum. It's not group. This is a different experience, and I want it to be different for you. And I'm intentionally hopefully making you, not hopefully, you're going to need to take off your counseling hat. Um, this comes from, here's my portfolio I put together. I finally found it. So part of the reason this hasn't been produced before now is I have gone through old hard drives because that's when I was a student. I have another one too. Hold on. Here's another one too. I've gone through old hard drives of information trying to find the assignment to replicate it because it was that meaningful for me. I did find my old portfolio in paper format, and here's my actual assignment that I did for a class. And you can see it's interreligious dialogue. And so you have an intercultural conversation or dialogue. It doesn't have to be a different religion, but it's the same kind of context. Um, and and so if you're super frustrated with me not releasing this assignment until now, why didn't you put it out on Monday? It's because I've literally just scoured trying to find I like the essence of it that much. And so I've had to then piecemeal together like from my paper. And I can upload this if you'd like to see what I did here. It's a little different than the scope of what we're doing, but you definitely see, even though it was for a theology degree, you definitely see some counseling influences in here. Um, so again, I mean, I've tried, like I said, there's been a lot of scouring for information, and so this is the best I can do. Putting this, I never actually did find the I found the outcome of the assignment, but never found the instructions. So um, here's the theoretical background behind this. This is an important lecture. This is a super important lecture. And I'm sorry it's in this frame. If I were to like put something out for this week, like, okay, this is what we want to get out of this week. This is it. So the next few minutes, tune in. It's not a long lecture for this, but here's the theoretical foundation behind it. It's in here. It's in the module 9 discussions. So under interaction plan and intercultural conversation, it gives you this really quick intro, but it's built on something that's huge to understanding the nature of prejudice back here from Allport in the 50s and going all the way through the present, of how we overcome prejudice, which we seem to be reinstilling that day by day for some reason. And what I would argue is that we've got away from this. In our former culture, where we weren't digitally fixated on this screen that's in front of me right now and not interacting with each other face to face, when we used to interact this way, our prejudices would fall away because we'd get to know other people for their humanity. We'd have to work with them face to face in the same room with the same air. And once we get to know each other, it's like, oh my gosh, they're like, this group is like me. We can find commonalities. But we don't when we're behind the screen because we've got that distance, that social distance that keeps us from recognizing our true humanity. I can't speak with enough passion on this topic, and this first study result will exemplify why. The strongest evidence for the contact hypothesis, which basically says that when you make contact from a person from a group other than your own prejudices melt away. This is where it comes from. A meta-analysis conducted by Pettigrew and Trope, this is from 2006, looked at 515 studies. That's no small feat in 2006 without AI. That's these two people looking at 516 studies, barely got Google Scholar, probably going to the library, probably looking at print copies of these things, probably finding actual journals. And yeah, there was some word processors, but they're not that far away from the typewriter because I used a typewriter in 1995 to type my own senior project for undergraduate school. The 515 studies they looked at had 250,000 participants from 38 nations. If you want to legalize a medication, if you get about 1,000 participants, you're good with the ADA. 250,000 participants, 515 studies. The overall effect they found, and so these are meta-analyses looking at prejudices, looking at ways that people combat oppression, marginalization. What they found was a consistent, statistically significant inverse relationship between intergroup contact, which means as intergroup contact increases, prejudice decreased in 94% of the studies. I don't know of a heavier hand in science. I mean, I guess you can, you could do fMRI imagery and see where the architecture of the brain changes. But as far as something that doesn't involve like neuroscience and actually seeing the neurochemistry of the brain change and architecture, wow, 94%. So think about the generalizability, the external validity of these. This effect was consistent across target groups, be it based on race, ethnicity, age, disability, sexual orientation. And so even thinking about our matrix, people from a marginalized culture may have prejudices against people from a dominant culture. Definitely people from a dominant culture have prejudices against people from minority cultures. But when they interact face to face, when there's actual interaction and not digital, it melts away. I can't, I'm getting passionate about it. This was my dissertation, gang. This is what it was built on, like some of these ideas. And so here's the ideas behind it. Why does contact help? Well, first off, there's anxiety. When you're around a group of people that you don't know, if you're a minority in a majority group and you're like one of the only person, your anxiety's high. Well, contact, particularly repeated positive contact, reduced anxiety, fear, and discomfort when anticipating or experiencing interaction with out-group members. This reduction in anxiety is a powerful mediator between contact. So again, people, Stefan and Stefan going, why are these things happening? Also, you're able to increase your empathy and ability to perspective take. Again, the perspective taking. Think about the work from Keegan in the book that I showed with all of the circles and the systems. You're able to see people within these systems when you talk to them, not just consider it from a book. So you can establish friendships, positive, influences, increases empathy, which strongly correlates with lower prejudice. And that's Pettigrew and Trope, a follow-up study, 2008. And enhanced knowledge. There's one of our 3 core components of multicultural competence is knowledge. You get knowledge about outgroup members, thereby disconfirming negative stereotypes and challenging generalized inaccurate beliefs. And that comes from way back when. So, gang, I can't stress this assignment enough. It's meaningful. What you do is meaningful. Here's the challenges for the assignment. Finding somebody. That was the biggest challenge I had with this. My initial conversation partner, as I read this, I reflected on it, was going to be somebody whose parents immigrated from China. In fact, they spoke Chinese very fluently still to this. Well, she has one parent that's still alive, but still to this day. They own a Chinese restaurant. and they were next door neighbors to my parents and really good people. And I wanted to have a conversation with the daughter. She spoke really good English and because she was raised here basically, and she didn't feel comfortable. She didn't feel comfortable as a representative. And that's one thing that you may face is that, you're reaching out, hey, I've got to have this intercultural conversation, and the person may say, well, I don't know how good a representative I've been. The idea is not that that person has to speak. And I would tell this to the person when you contact them, you're not speaking for everybody. Please know that this class knows that nobody, as far as I know, nobody is 100% in alignment with their own culture. We're all, especially here in the United States, we're individuals. We have a very individualistic society, and so you have that individual variance within these bigger, cultural ideas. And so she turned me down. I eventually spoke to somebody who was next door neighbors to my sister, and they were Hindu. So again, be creative, think outside the box. Is this? And I want you to go in person. I want you to even like not do like if you're gonna do a Zoom, reach out to me because I would prefer that you take time to do this in person. Okay. Um, take cliff notes. Just take, there's some questions I have down here to guide you, and you might just write down a couple of thoughts as you go through, to guide like, you're also, I guess you'd be welcome to hit like audio record, audio record and I still want you to, think about it. It should be a 20 to 30-minute conversation. That stuff is in here. Um, and I've given you a sample script. So, if you're reaching out, hello, I'm the student, and don't send this by email. If you can, call, go talk to somebody. Hello, I'm the student in multicultural counseling class. I have to complete a intercultural conversation assignment with a person from a different culture than me. The differences can be based on religion, race, gender identity, sexual orientation, and others. The main idea is that I have to have a conversation with someone from a different culture than me to learn more about that culture and also society. And I would argue the individual. Please know I don't expect you to speak for every person from your culture. Every person has their own unique perspectives and beliefs that set them apart from their own culture. So again, you're prefacing this, and I'm trying to overcome an obstacle that I had when I started. Um, for you, this is a conversation and not a counseling conversation. Please don't invoke informed consent. This is not what we're doing in strategies. I want to undo that power differential. Anytime you say you're a counselor and you're going to do counseling, you automatically create a power differential, and that's just the profession. I'm not saying you don't do that when you're actually counseling. You're not counseling here. You're just having a conversation. So here's some examples, like some questions to get started. Tell me a little bit about yourself and your family. What do you do? How do you fit in or not fit in with your family? You know, um, how do you describe your own cultural background or community? What was it like growing up in your family? You can change these questions as they come. Like, I'm not saying that my questions are perfect. If you have other questions that you think that would fit better to get to know somebody culturally, you're welcome to ask these. And maybe you want to ask more like generic questions to start to develop that rapport. But don't just stick around on, hey, what do you think of the weather? That's not what we're doing. What are some traditions or interests? Definitely what are some traditions your family follows? What are interests that are meaningful to you? You might ask, on a separate way, what are the primary influences for your life or the person you are? That's a deep question, right? So read through these. You're welcome. What I would encourage you to do is order these on a page. Order these, and so you have somewhat of a script, and you can come back to them. So when I did my own, I remember I had them on a page, and I would kind of consult when I get lost. Again, just let the person know, hey, I'm doing an assignment. Um, One of the things that you might come out with is that they're asking questions of you too. Be okay. Be okay. Again, you're not counseling. This is like normally, like in our classes, I'm gonna try to discourage self-disclosure. This is for you to have like, and there's actually a lot of studies that say that if you self-disclose, others are more likely to self-disclose as well. So the self-disclosure is probably going to help if they ask you questions, and be genuine, you know. Um, so Open-ended questions are good. This, and if you want to use the little reflection things, if you've had strategies like, hey, this sounds like this impacted you a lot. Tell me more about blank. So if you want to use a quick like reflection open-ended request, you're welcome to use that because as you've seen, if you've taken strategies, that helps. That helps people feel comfortable, and to go into more depth. So again, but you're not counseling. Okay, that's mainly reflective listening. When you're writing the report, summarize it. Again, I'm going to request that you take some notes. Be okay to say, hey, I've got to take some notes on this because I've got to write a report. You might, or if you, I think I remember recording mine, like, and I went back. I didn't video it, but I went back and say, hey, I'll delete it. Please let them know this is anonymous. Please let them know you're not. Please don't use their name in the assignment. This should be an anonymous thing. Let them know this is anonymous. That what they say. I'm going to hide your identity. I'll just say I met with a female or male or um, maybe gender fluid person. Whatever, however you want to frame that, to keep them anonymous. The page is 4 to 5. The paper is 4 to 5 pages. You don't have to ask all the questions above. Again, you're welcome to make some modifications. Go at least 20 minutes, 20 to 30. If it goes longer, if you and your guests have time and you're having a good conversation, keep going. I think mine went a little longer. Um, when you write this, write from a first person perspective. Again, this is a reflective exercise. And then at the end of the paper, answer these questions. So when you did answer a question, I'd like you to note that in the paper and say, so like I asked what traditions were important to them. That person indicated that blank was important to them because of this. Their family used to do this when they were little. They remember this, however that comes about. Gang, I'm welcome to questions. I'm open to questions. I want this to go on too long. It's hopefully is making sense, based and read through this a couple times. I did spend some time on this because again it was a recreation of something I couldn't find, and I looked I looked a long time. So I hope this is helpful. Again, you can be happy that you didn't have work, but you kind of do have work. So this assignment's actually due a little bit later. So this assignment is due the week after your paper slash um, PowerPoint. It's due the 24th of November. I'm correct on that. And that's on a Monday. That's intentional. So if you do have discussion boards, it's not all a cram on a Sunday. So again, let me show you that and then we'll get out of here. Going back to this, you can submit your assignment here. Oh, yeah, here. So it's here within the module. Or please know that these assignments are also available to be submitted right here. That you can go to its own separate space. And if you click on either of these links, you can also submit the assignments there. So, gang, please reach out if you have questions. Have a good fall break. Just at least be thinking about this and how you can pull it off. See ya.